I didn't plan to give him that dollar. My name is Naomi Fletcher. I'm 28 years old, and that Tuesday morning started like any other disaster waiting to happen. My parking meter was bleeding time, my bank account was laughing at me, and my stepsister Kira had already called 7 times before 9 a.m. But this man sitting outside the Midtown Atlanta bank looked up at me with eyes that weren't demanding anything. Just tired. His cardboard sign read, "Anything helps. God bless." His jacket was too thin for February. His hands shook. I dug through my purse past old receipts and loose change until I found one crumpled dollar bill. The last cash I had until Friday. Everything in me screamed to keep walking. Bills were piling up. My landlord had already warned me once. Instead, I handed it to him. "Thank you," he said quietly, meeting my eyes like I'd given him 100. "You didn't have to do that." I smiled because that's what you do when someone thanks you for basic human decency. Then I turned toward the bank entrance. That's when Kira stepped directly into my path. She blocked the automatic doors with the confidence of someone who'd spent her whole life getting exactly what she wanted. Her designer coat probably cost more than my rent. "Naomi," she said, voice dripping with false sweetness loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "We need to talk. Right now." Her smile was camera-ready. Practiced. The kind she used when she wanted witnesses to her supposed kindness. My stomach dropped hard and fast. Kira's manicured hand wrapped around my wrist like a trap closing. To anyone watching, we probably looked like close sisters greeting each other. But her nails dug into my skin just enough to send a message. "You're coming inside," she whispered through her perfect smile. "Don't make a scene." "I can't," I said as quietly as possible. "I'm already late for work." The marketing firm where I worked as a junior designer didn't care about family drama. They cared about deadlines. "You're not going anywhere," she replied, still smiling for our invisible audience, "until you sign what needs signing." My blood went cold. "Sign what?" She leaned closer. Her perfume was expensive and overwhelming. "Dad's account access. Temporary authority while he's recovering. You'll do it quietly, and everyone will think you're being responsible." I tried to pull away. "That's not how legal authority works, Kira. There are procedures." Her grip tightened until I felt her nails break skin. "Oh, Naomi," she murmured, voice sweet as poison. "If you don't cooperate, I'll make sure every financial institution in Atlanta thinks you're a thief by nightfall." "How hard do you think it'll be to find work then?" Heat flooded my face. The security guard was looking our way now. "You're insane," I whispered. Her smile disappeared for exactly half a second. Long enough to show me what was underneath. "You think sleeping on couches is hard," she said. "Try shelters. Try explaining to employers why there's a fraud investigation with your name on it." Then, through the glass doors behind her, I saw something that made my heart stop. The beggar I'd just helped was standing up. And he was pointing directly at Kira. I stepped backward so suddenly that Kira stumbled in her expensive heels. "What is wrong with you?" she snapped, her perfect mask slipping. "I forgot something in my car," I lied, already backing away from her. "I'll be right back." I didn't wait for her response. I turned and walked straight toward the man who was now lowering his hand. "Why did you do that?" I demanded when I reached him. "You don't even know her." He looked at me with an expression that was way too calm for someone who just pointed at a stranger. "She's dangerous," he said simply. I laughed once. It came out sharp and disbelieving. "You don't know anything about my family. She's not here for the money," he continued like I hadn't spoken. "She's here to make you take the fall for something. Don't sign anything she puts in front of you." My laugh died in my throat. How could he possibly know what Kira wanted me to sign? Before I could ask, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out. "Urgent, Dad. Please sign the attached authorization immediately. Your sister is helping coordinate my care. Trust her." My breath caught in my chest. The man's eyes flicked to my phone screen. "Don't open that attachment." "How do you know what it says?" I asked. "Because I've seen this exact setup before," he replied. "And it never ends well for people like you." Inside the bank, Kira was watching us through the glass. Her phone was pressed to her ear and her expression was cold. "Who are you?" I whispered. But he was already walking away. I opened the email attachment anyway. Sitting in my car with the engine running, I stared at the screen. The document looked exactly like something my father would send. It had his email signature, his slightly formal phrasing, even the way he always wrote best regards with a comma instead of a period. Temporary medical and financial power of attorney. My hands started shaking. The wording made it sound simple. Just a precaution while he recovered from his stroke. Just family helping family. But something felt wrong. I was about to close it when someone tapped on my window. The beggar stood there, and up close I could see he wasn't as old as I'd thought. Maybe 40. His clothes were worn but his eyes were sharp. I rolled down the window. "May I see your phone?" he asked. Every safety instinct told me not to hand my phone to a stranger. But something about the way he'd pointed at Kira, the certainty in his warning, made me unlock it and pass it through the window. He didn't look at the document itself. Instead, he tapped through settings I barely knew existed, looking at technical details that meant nothing to me. "This email," he said after a moment, tapping the sender address, "look at this domain closely." I squinted at the screen. Fletcher Amedi Cauth at secure-familydocs.com. "That's not your father's email," he said. My stomach dropped. "What?" "Someone created an account that looks like official correspondence. But if you check your father's real email history, I guarantee you won't find this address anywhere." He handed back my phone. Inside the bank, through the large windows, I could see Kira laughing with a teller. She looked relaxed. Confident. She thought she'd already won. That evening, I went to my stepmother Marla's house because I knew if I didn't show up, they'd accuse me of abandoning my father. The house looked exactly like it always did. Perfect. Magazine ready. Every surface polished to a shine that felt accusatory. Marla sat at the dining table like she'd been waiting for hours. Her hands were folded neatly in front of her. Kira leaned against the kitchen counter with her phone already positioned. Recording, probably. She'd done this before during other family arguments. "Sit down, Naomi," Marla said softly. That gentle voice that made every request sound like a reasonable suggestion. A manila folder sat on the table between us. "This is just something temporary," Marla continued. "To help while your father recovers. You understand that we need to make sure his medical bills are handled properly." I opened the folder. The first page was the power of attorney document from the email. The second page was a list of my father's accounts and assets. The third page had my signature at the bottom. My hands began to shake so badly I almost dropped the papers. "I never signed this," I said. "Don't be dramatic," Kira said from behind her phone. "We all know you wanted to help Dad. You're just having second thoughts now." "I never signed this," I repeated, louder this time. Marla's expression didn't change. "Naomi, sweetie, I watched you sign it at the hospital yesterday. You were emotional, but you knew what you were doing." "I wasn't at the hospital yesterday," I said. "I was at work all day. My boss can confirm it." Kira's smile widened for the camera. "Explain to everyone watching why you're refusing to help your own father, Naomi. What kind of daughter does that?" That's when I understood. This wasn't family pressure. This wasn't about convincing me to sign anything. They'd already forged my signature. The meeting tonight was just to make me look guilty when I denied it. I left without another word. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I drove straight to my father's house on the other side of Atlanta, the house where I'd grown up before he married Marla 8 years ago. The locks were changed. I stood on the front porch trying my old key over and over like maybe I was doing it wrong. But the lock didn't recognize me anymore. A neighbor I'd known since childhood came out of the house next door. "Naomi," Mrs. Patterson called. "Are you all right? Do you know where my dad is?" I asked. Her expression shifted to concern. "Oh honey, an ambulance came for him this morning. Your sister was with him. She said he'd had another episode." Another episode. My father had only had one stroke. 2 weeks ago. He'd been recovering well according to his doctors. Did they say which hospital? I asked. Emory, I think, she said. Are you not in touch with your family? I thanked her and got back in my car. That's when I saw him again. The beggar from this morning. He was leaning casually against a lamppost at the corner like he'd been waiting. I rolled down my window. Are you following me? Your family is running out of time, he said. They're moving faster than I expected. Who are you? I demanded. My name is Elias Monroe, he said. And if you want to save your father, you need to stop thinking like his daughter and start thinking like someone who's being set up for fraud. Emory Hospital's ICU felt too quiet. I found the nurse's station and asked about my father, Theodore Fletcher. The nurse smiled kindly. Oh yes, your sister has been handling everything. She's been so dedicated. Can I see him? I asked. Let me check with her first, the nurse said. She's been coordinating all his visitors. Before I could argue, Kira appeared from around the corner. Her eyes were red and puffy like she'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged in exactly the way that looked authentic on camera. She walked straight up to me and pulled me into a hug. Then she whispered in my ear, if you say one word out of line, I'll tell everyone you hurt him. I have witnesses ready to testify that you've been unstable. Threatening him. Do you understand me? She pulled back with that practiced sad smile. I'm so glad you're here, she said loudly. Dad needs all of us right now. Through the observation window, I could see my father in the hospital bed. He looked smaller than I remembered. Bruised. There were too many tubes and wires. A doctor approached. You must be the other daughter, she said. I'm Dr. Patel. Your father's condition has stabilized, but he's not responsive yet. When can he have visitors? I asked. Your sister has been with him, Dr. Patel said. She's been very helpful with medical decisions. What medical decisions? I asked. The doctor glanced at Kira. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. No, Kira said quickly. Naomi can hear anything you need to tell me. We're all family here. The way she said family made it sound like a threat. Outside the ICU, Elias appeared again. I was starting to wonder if he was actually homeless or if that had been a disguise. He showed me his phone. Photos of Kira meeting with a man in an expensive suit outside a law office downtown. The timestamp was from yesterday. Who is that? I asked. Lawrence Vance, Elias said. He specializes in estate planning. But not the normal kind. He works with people who want to move assets before someone dies, not after. My stomach turned. What are you saying? I'm saying they're not waiting for your father to die naturally, Elias said. They're preparing for it now. And they need someone to blame when questions get asked. He swiped to another photo. Kira and Marla having coffee with two other people I didn't recognize. Probate fixers, Elias explained. They forge documents. Backdate wills. Make everything look legitimate until someone digs deeper. How do you know all this? I asked. His expression went dark. Because I used to investigate these people. Until they decided I was too much of a problem. 20 minutes later, a different doctor pulled me aside. Ms. Fletcher, he said. I'm Dr. Williams. I was reviewing your father's chart and noticed something unusual. What? I asked. His emergency contact was changed this morning, he said. We normally don't see that happen during an active hospital stay. Changed to who? I asked, though I already knew. Your sister Kira, he confirmed. She also updated his insurance information and medical directives. I need to see his chart, I said. I'm sorry, but only the emergency contact can authorize that now, he said apologetically. Of course. I went back to the waiting area. Kira was standing near the elevators with that same clipboard she'd been carrying. She walked up to me with a concerned expression that would have fooled anyone who didn't know her. The doctors need someone to sign off on Dad's extended care plan, she said sweetly. Since you're here, maybe you should do it. Show everyone you actually care. She held out the clipboard. Elias's words echoed in my head, don't sign anything. I need to read it first, I said. Of course, she smiled. Take your time. I just want Dad to get the care he needs. I'm sure you do too. But her eyes said something different. They said she knew I wouldn't sign it. And she was already planning how to use my refusal against me. In a quiet hallway away from everyone else, I finally broke down. The weight of everything crashed over me at once. My father is in that hospital bed. The forged documents. Kira's threats. Not knowing who to trust. Elias sat down on the floor beside me. I used to work in financial crimes investigation, he said quietly. Corporate fraud mostly. Following money trails that people thought they'd hidden well enough. Used to? I asked. He rolled up his sleeve and showed me a scar that ran from his wrist almost to his elbow. Someone didn't like how close I was getting to the truth, he said. They made sure I couldn't work in that field anymore. Took my license. Destroyed my reputation. Made me disappear. Why are you helping me? I asked. Because I've been where you are, he said. And because people like your sister only win when nobody's watching. He pulled out his phone again and showed me something that made my blood run cold. A scheduled transfer. $1 million. From my father's primary account. The recipient's name was mine. Transfer date, 3 days from now. They're framing you, Elias said simply. My hands went numb. How is that even possible? I don't have access to his accounts. You will, he said. That's what the power of attorney is for. Once that document is officially filed with the bank, you'll have legal access. And then this transfer will go through under your authority. But I didn't authorize it, I said. That won't matter, Elias replied. All the documentation will show you did. Your signature, your authorization. By the time anyone questions it, the money will be gone and you'll be the obvious suspect. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Where does the money go after? He showed me more screenshots. Through 3 shell accounts, then into an offshore trust that's technically owned by a charity foundation. A charity that Marla serves on the board of. How did you get all this? I asked. I've been watching your family for 2 weeks, he admitted. Ever since I saw Kira meeting with Vance. I recognized the pattern. These people work the same way every time. Why didn't you go to the police? I asked. His expression went dark. Because I did. 5 years ago when I first discovered this network. They buried my evidence and destroyed my credibility. The only way to stop people like this is to catch them mid-crime with proof that can't be disputed. He looked at me seriously. That means letting this play out. Letting them think they're winning. Until we can document everything. Everything in me wanted to scream. To run. To grab my father and disappear. But I was starting to understand that running would only make me look guilty. The next day, Elias took me to a building downtown. Through a window on the 3rd floor, we watched a woman who looked disturbingly like me walk into a bank office. She was wearing clothes similar to what I'd wear. Same height. Same build. Hair styled exactly like mine. That's Kira's assistant, Elias whispered. Amanda Ross. She's done this before for other families. We watched as Amanda signed documents at a desk. Kira stood nearby, supervising with that same concerned expression she'd perfected. The bank manager smiled and shook Amanda's hand. I wanted to scream. To burst in there and tell them she wasn't me. But Elias's hand on my arm stopped me. Not yet, he said. We need to let them finish. The more they commit to this fraud, the harder it falls apart when we prove it. What if they get away with it? I asked. They won't, he said with absolute certainty. Because they don't know I'm documenting everything. He showed me his phone. Photos with timestamps. Video clips. Location data. I used to build fraud cases, he said. I know exactly what prosecutors need. That night in my tiny apartment, I couldn't sleep. Elias had asked me to trust him. To let this play out. To watch as my family committed crimes in my name. Every instinct screamed at me to do something. Call the police. Confront them. Warn my father if he ever woke up. But Elias was right. Without proof, it would be my word against theirs. And they'd already built a narrative where I was the troubled daughter who couldn't be trusted. My phone buzzed. A text from Kira. Dad's asking for you. Come tomorrow morning. Alone. My heart jumped. He was awake. But then I read it again. Come alone. It felt like a trap. I texted Elias. He replied immediately, go. But I'll be there. They don't know about me yet. The next morning, I walked into that hospital room expecting the worst. My father was propped up in bed. He looked weak but alert. His eyes found mine immediately. Kira stood on the other side of his bed like a guardian angel. He wanted to see you, she said sweetly. To tell you something important. I approached slowly. My father's hand reached for mine. It's okay, Dad, I said. You don't have to say anything. But his grip tightened. He pulled me closer. And he pointed at the 4 bag hanging beside his bed. Then he shook his head. I looked at the 4 bag. Then my father. Then at Kira. What's wrong with his 4? I asked. Nothing, Kira said quickly. He's just confused. The medication makes him disoriented. But my father kept shaking his head. His eyes were clear. He knew exactly what he was trying to tell me. I pressed the call button for the nurse. Don't be dramatic, Kira said. You're upsetting him. The nurse came in. Is everything all right? I want his 4 checked, I said. Right now. The nurse looked confused. It was just replaced an hour ago. By who? I asked. By. The nurse hesitated. By his daughter. She looked at Kira. I was just trying to help, Kira said with that perfect innocent voice. The nurse was busy and the alarm was going off. You're not authorized to touch medical equipment, I said. I was trying to help Dad, Kira replied, pulling out her phone. Why are you attacking me? This is exactly what the doctors warned us about. Naomi, you're being paranoid. But I'd already grabbed the 4 bag. Pulled it off the pole. Test this, I said to the nurse. Something's wrong with it. The nurse took it hesitantly. I'll have to report this. Good, I said. Kira's expression finally cracked. Just for a second. But it was enough. She knew I'd found something. Hospital security reviewed the footage from my father's room. Elias sat with me in a small office while they pulled up the recordings from the past 24 hours. There, I said, pointing at the screen. Kira entering the room alone. Looking around. Approaching the 4 stand. The angle wasn't perfect, but you could see her hands moving. Injecting something into the 4 bag. The security officer's expression changed. We need to call the police. No, Elias said quickly. Not yet. The officer looked at him like he was crazy. This is attempted harm to a patient. This is part of a bigger case, Elias said, pulling out documentation I hadn't seen before. His old investigator credentials. Letters from prosecutors. If you alert them now, they'll disappear and take all the evidence with them. He looked at me. I need you to trust me for one more day. Everything in me wanted to see Kira arrested immediately. But I nodded. The officer agreed to isolate the footage and keep my father under protection. 24 hours, he said. Then I'm making the call regardless. That afternoon, something else surfaced. The hospital's legal department contacted me. They'd found a copy of my father's will in his patient file. A will I'd never seen before. According to this document, my father had left everything to a trust controlled by Marla and Kira. I was mentioned but only to explicitly exclude me from any inheritance due to my unstable behavior and financial irresponsibility. It was dated 3 weeks ago. Right after his stroke. And it was witnessed by Lawrence Vance, the estate lawyer Elias had photographed. This is forged, I said. The hospital administrator looked uncomfortable. That's not for us to determine. We just needed to inform you since you're listed in the document. Elias photographed every page. This is good, he said when we were alone. They're getting careless. The pattern is too obvious now. He showed me how the same handwriting analysis that would prove my signature was forged on the power of attorney would also prove my father's signature was forged on this will. They used the same person to forge both documents, he explained. Probably Amanda Ross again. She's good but not perfect. The pressure points are identical. That evening, I got a text from Kira. Can we talk? Just us. I'm sorry about everything. I've been stressed and took it out on you. Coffee tomorrow? Elias read it over my shoulder. She knows something's wrong, he said. She's trying to control the narrative before it falls apart. Should I go? I asked. Yes, he said. But we're recording everything. He handed me a small device. This goes in your jacket pocket. Audio and video. Whatever she says, we'll have proof. The next morning, I met Kira at a quiet coffee shop in Buckhead. She looked tired. Her perfect makeup couldn't quite hide the stress cracks. I'm glad you came, she said. I was worried you'd refuse to see me. What do you want, Kira? I asked. She slid papers across the table. I want to fix this. I know we've had our problems, but we're family. Dad would want us to work together. The papers were a settlement agreement. If I signed, I'd agree not to contest the will or any financial decisions made on my father's behalf. In exchange, I'd receive a small trust fund. $50,000. That's generous, I said carefully. What's the catch? No catch, she said. I just want peace. And I think you deserve something for all the years Dad wasn't there for you. It was almost believable. Almost. If I sign this, I said slowly, does that mean you'll stop claiming I forged documents? Her expression flickered. I never said you forged anything. But you implied it, I said. At Marla's house. On camera. She reached across the table for my hand. Naomi, please. Let's just end this. Sign the papers and we can both move on. I picked up the pen. Her relief was visible. I signed my name at the bottom of the page. Just not on the signature line. I wrote across the entire document, I do not agree to these terms. This signature is only to prove I was present and coerced. Kira's face went white. What did you just do? She whispered. I documented that you tried to buy my silence, I said calmly. And I have witnesses. Elias appeared from a table near the window. 2 police officers were with him. Kira grabbed her phone. You're insane. You're trying to set me up. Actually, Elias said, placing his phone on the table, we set you up. And you did all the work. He played back our conversation. Her admission that she wanted me to sign away my rights. Her acknowledgement of the forged documents. One of the officers stepped forward. Ms. Kira Fletcher, we need you to come with us for questioning regarding suspected fraud and attempted harm to Theodore Fletcher. This is ridiculous, Kira said, standing. My lawyer will destroy all of you. Your lawyer is already being questioned, Elias said. Lawrence Vance was arrested an hour ago for his involvement in multiple estate fraud cases. Kira's confidence finally shattered completely. Naomi, she said, voice breaking. Please. We're family. No, I said quietly. Family doesn't try to steal from each other. Family doesn't poison their own father. At the police station, everything unraveled. The scheduled transfer for $1 million had been frozen by the fraud department. Someone had flagged it as suspicious. That someone was Elias. He'd contacted an old colleague who still worked in financial crimes. Kira's phone records showed dozens of calls to Amanda Ross, the woman who'd impersonated me at the bank. More calls to Marla. To Lawrence Vance. To the other probate fixers. A pattern so clear that even the most skeptical investigator couldn't ignore it. When they searched Kira's apartment, they found documents. Drafts of the forged will. Practice versions of my signature. Notes about my father's medication schedule and when he'd be most vulnerable. She'd planned everything carefully. Just not carefully enough. 3 days later, my father squeezed my hand for the first time since waking up. The doctors had cleared the medication from his system. The medication that Kira had been adding to his 4 low doses of sedatives that kept him confused and compliant. Naomi, he whispered. His voice was rough from the breathing tube they'd removed. I'm here, Dad, I said. Kira, he said. His eyes were clear. Angry. She tried to. I know, I said gently. She can't hurt you anymore. He closed his eyes. A single tear rolled down his cheek. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't see it. I let her." "You were sick," I said. "This isn't your fault." But I could see the guilt eating at him. The realization that he'd brought Marla and Kira into our lives. That he'd trusted them with everything. "The house," he said. "The money. She took. We're getting it back," I promised. "All of it." The toxicology report confirmed what we suspected. Someone had been slowly poisoning my father for weeks. Small amounts of sedatives mixed with other medications that mimicked stroke symptoms. Enough to make him seem confused and incapable. Not enough to kill him outright. They'd wanted him alive but incompetent. Perfect for manipulating into signing documents. Security footage from my father's house showed Marla administering his daily medications. Pills that weren't prescribed. Drinks that left him drowsy. When confronted with the evidence, Marla broke first. She confessed everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. How Kira had planned it all. How they'd researched estate fraud cases and found Lawrence Vance. How they'd practiced forging signatures until they were perfect. How they'd planned to frame me for the theft and then disappear with the money. "It was Kira's idea," Marla kept saying. "I just went along with it. I didn't want anyone to get hurt." But the evidence showed she'd been equally involved. Equally guilty. The trial took 6 months. During that time, my father slowly recovered. He moved into a smaller house with better security. He filed for divorce from Marla. And he apologized. Over and over. "I should have listened to you," he said one evening as we sorted through legal documents. "You tried to tell me something was wrong with Kira. I thought you were just jealous." "I was jealous," I admitted. "But I was also right." We found the full trail of their plan. Bank records showing where they'd moved money in preparation. Emails between Kira and her accomplices. Text messages discussing how to handle me if I became a problem. They'd been planning this for over a year. Since before my father's first stroke. That stroke hadn't been natural either. They'd caused it. The prosecutors built an overwhelming case. Elias testified about the fake charity foundation. He traced the offshore accounts back to a network of similar schemes. Families who'd lost money to fraudulent estate planning. Elderly people whose assets had disappeared while they were incapacitated. This wasn't their first time, he told the courtroom. They'd done this to at least 7 other families. Naomi's father was just the latest target. The jury looked horrified. Kira's lawyer tried to argue that she'd been manipulated by Lawrence Vance. That she was young and naive and didn't understand what she was doing. But the evidence showed otherwise. Emails where she'd bragged about how easy it would be. How I'd be the perfect scapegoat because I was already struggling financially. "Naomi won't even fight back," she'd written to Amanda Ross. "She's too scared of confrontation. By the time she realizes what happened, we'll be gone." Reading those words in court felt like a knife twisting. This was someone I'd tried to have a relationship with. Someone I'd invited to my apartment for dinner. Someone I'd defended to my father when he'd first started noticing money going missing. She'd never seen me as family. Just as an obstacle to remove. The verdict came back unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Fraud. Attempted murder. Conspiracy. Forgery. Kira showed no emotion when the judge read the sentence. 15 years in prison. Marla got 10. Lawrence Vance and the others involved got similar sentences. The money was recovered. All of it. My father's accounts were restored. The fake charity was dissolved and its assets were distributed to the families who'd been defrauded. Outside the courthouse, reporters wanted statements. They wanted me to talk about betrayal and justice and how it felt to be vindicated. But I just wanted to go home. Elias was waiting by my car. "You did it," he said simply. "We did it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done this without you." He shook his head. "You gave me that $1 when you didn't have to. When most people would have walked past. That told me everything I needed to know about who you were." "Why did you really help me?" I asked. "You could have just reported what you saw and let the police handle it." He was quiet for a moment. "Because 5 years ago, Someone like Kira destroyed my life. And nobody helped me. Nobody believed me. I lost everything. He looked at me seriously. I couldn't save myself. But I could save you. 6 months later, my father and I used some of the recovered money to start something new. A foundation that helped families recognize and report financial elder abuse. That connected victims with investigators and lawyers. That made sure people like Elias didn't have to fight alone. We called it the Fletcher Justice Fund. Elias refused to take any money for his help. So we hired him as the foundation's lead investigator instead. Put his skills to use helping others. That dollar you gave me, he said at our first board meeting, it didn't just save you. It reminded me why I became an investigator in the first place. To help people who can't help themselves. My father squeezed my shoulder. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. Not just for what you did, but for who you are. I thought about that Tuesday morning outside the bank. How close I'd come to walking past Elias. How different everything would be if I'd kept that dollar. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness become the foundation for something much bigger. That one crumpled bill had started a chain reaction that saved my father's life, exposed a criminal network, and helped dozens of families get justice. Not because the dollar itself was magic, but because it connected two people who needed each other at exactly the right moment. I'd given Elias $1 when I had almost nothing. And he'd given me back everything.